Next story I wanted to talk about is about a guy named Mark Taylor, aka the Firefighter Prophet. Now, I've talked about this guy a few times before, but let me give you a little bit of background on who he is exactly. This is what he looks like right here. This is him on a TV show. Basically, Liberty University, Jerry Falwell's school, I guess you could call it, created this documentary on him a while back called The Firefighter Prophet, I believe, or The Trump Prophecies. I don't remember which one it was. I'm not really sure what the name of it was exactly. It was either The Firefighter Prophet or The Trump Prophecies. But anyways, it was created by Liberty University, and it was all about this guy and how this guy claimed to prophesy Donald Trump's presidency. He claimed that he was going to run in 2012. That Trump was going to run and win in 2012 against Obama. Of course, that failed. And then 2016 comes along and Trump runs and wins. And suddenly he's this big famous guy because he was correct about a prophecy that he actually wasn't even fucking correct about. But none of that matters when it comes to this group of people. None of the facts matter. The facts are completely irrelevant. So anyways, this guy starts going down a rabbit hole, a deep rabbit hole. And before the 2020 election actually took place, he had some things to say. So I wanted to give a listen to this compilation and see what he had to say right before the 2020 election actually took place. Check this out.
The Democrats are not going to win for decades to come. You're not going to see another Democrat in the White House for decades, I don't believe, if ever again, right now at this point, because they are you're seeing literally the destruction of the Democratic Party.
Well, that's an interesting turn of phrase, isn't it? Haven't we heard that before? I think we have. Wasn't it? Yeah, it was Dave Hayes, the praying medic, who said that exact phrase earlier. Listen to this.
Q has often said, especially over the last 6 months, this is going to be the end of the D Party, the end of the Democrat Party. If you believe what Mark Taylor has said.
How about that shit? He's even referencing Mark Taylor, the firefighter prophet, the so-called firefighter prophet. What a name.
If you believe what Mark Taylor has said, we're going to see military tribunals, we're going to see people, there are going to be public executions, and there's going to be a lot of corrupt people prosecuted. That is going to have an indelible impact on the minds and the psyche of an entire generation.
So needless to say, Mark Taylor is actually really well respected in the QAnon movement, in the QAnon community, and in the Trumpist community, if you will. He's one of Trump's biggest supporters and biggest believers, and that's going to come into play in a little while with one of his newer clips. But let's keep listening to what he has to say here in this compilation, pre-2020 election.
Look, it doesn't matter who runs up against Trump. It doesn't matter because they're going to lose, period. Trump's going to win the election. It's going to be a blowout in 2020. We all know it.
What God has shown me is that he will be in for 2 terms, period. And I can even add to that now a little bit because God has shown me again that there will be another Trump in the White House.
Oh, really?
After Donald Trump.
Wow, that's oddly specific. He's saying Donald Trump is going to have, help his kid run to be the president after he leaves or something. I guess this guy's obsession is just with Trump and everything Trump is all about, all of his kids and everything. He needs Trump in his life, apparently. Let's keep listening.
Look, when this is all said and done, the Democrats will be finished for good. And I've said this for a long time. I said that you will not see another Democrat in the White House for many, many years, if ever again. And this right here, I believe, which we're seeing happening, which is the death of the Democratic Party, this right there will be that prophecy coming to pass.
Notice in the background, trust the plan, a big Q. Yeah, these people are all QAnon supporters, QAnon believers. QAnon is a very complex conspiracy theory that covers a lot of ground, but it has very specific claims that not every other conspiracy theory has. So you can ask specific questions to just anybody. Just take a poll of anybody in the United States. Do they believe this thing or that thing? Do they believe that in sometime in the near future, a number of politicians are going to be prosecuted by a military tribunal for corruption? When asking that question, you are fishing for QAnon members specifically, because QAnon is the only group that believes that the storm, as they call it, is imminent. It's going to happen. And it's a very specific description of exactly what is going to happen and when. So you can take this poll and ask these questions that kind of filter out how many people in society are QAnon. But the problem is that there are like different levels to QAnon. Like you can be deep, deep in it, like have all of the books that have been written about it and have read every single Q post and have donated $10,000 to Donald Trump over the years, just the whole 9 yards. You can be real deep in it, or you can be just on the surface and generally accept the claims that QAnon provides, but don't really know much about it otherwise. Think about it like it's two separate circles. Like you've got the inner circle. Shit, I keep bumping my mic. So you've got the inner circle that I'm guessing probably makes up in the range of 5 million people roughly, which is give or take the population of every Mormon and every Jehovah's Witness in the United States. That's the kind of core QAnon audience that believes it to the bottom of their hearts. And then the wider circle is people who accept the claims of the QAnon movement but aren't full-blown QAnon themselves. I would say that circle probably makes up 25 million people total, including the inner circle. It's people who would be QAnon if they knew more about it, probably. Or they haven't done the whole deep dive. They're just accepting the claims. They don't know the lore. They just accept the claims, basically. And then you've got an even broader audience, a third circle, that probably makes up, I don't know, somewhere in the range of 30% of the Republican Party, which accepts some of the QAnon claims. But one thing is for sure either way, with all of this information that we have, QAnon is affecting the Republican Party deeply. It's affecting the issues people run on and the representatives that are running in the first place. It's affecting how people vote and how they talk and the things that they talk about, and that's pretty concerning. No matter how small QAnon actually is, it's affecting things, and that should be concerning to us. Let's keep listening to Mark Taylor. He actually released another clip mid-October 2021, and he had some really weird shit to say in this one. Give this a listen.
Let me tell you how bad this has gotten, okay, with the dark side right now, the prophetic plagiarism. That's not just happening to me. I've talked to other true prophetic voices that it's happening to, and they're sick and tired of it as well.
Prophetic plagiarism, he says. What the fuck is prophetic plagiarism?
I literally can have a conversation with someone on the phone right now. And we're documenting, by the way. We know who they are. We know who's behind it. But I can have a conversation of new revelation that God's given me with my intercessors. Yeah. 24 hours later, it'll be on someone's YouTube channel, or it'll come out on somewhere on Elijah list, or it'll come out with this prophetic person or that prophetic person. Paul, how they doing this, buddy?
Are you serious? He's making prophetic pronouncements or whatever, and he doesn't know how they're coming out? Do you think maybe it's possible that God gave the same message to somebody else too? Is that a possibility? I mean, I don't buy any of this shit. Obviously, somebody is copying your ideas. That seems pretty obvious to me. But, under your belief system, God's giving you these messages. Why is it so absurd to think that he isn't giving the same ones to other people? Like 1 billion people prophesied that Trump is going to be the president in 2020. Did they copy their prophecies from others? Or did they claim that God gave them to them? I wonder who he's talking about, though. Is it Johnny Enlow? You guys think it's Johnny Enlow? I would love to think it's Johnny Enlow.
Paul, how they doing this, buddy?
Yeah, they're hearing
this
and
is
taking.
Thank you. It is they're listening to familiar spirits, or they're listening to a demonic network that's telling them what the conversation is, remote viewing, or astral projection. These are not your friends, folks. I am telling you now, this is where the judgment of God's going to come down on these guys.
Astral projection? He jumps to astral projection rather than God gave the same message to this other person? That's fucking strange. Why did he jump all the way there? I didn't even know that he accepted astral projection. I guess this is another part of the QAnon belief system that I was not privy to or something. I don't know. You think that one's weird? Here's one from mid-November 2020. This is immediately after the election took place, I believe. Okay, so Mark Taylor goes on this guy's podcast. I think it's the Erskine podcast, I believe is what it's called. And he's talking about some pretty interesting stuff. He's talking about the vaccine, and they're talking about COVID. If you remember, at this time, the vaccine was not quite out yet, or it was being done in trials or something. I think the vaccine was officially released in like January, early January, right before Biden took office. You know, I should probably just find out. So it looks like the vaccine was actually released in mid-December to late December to the public, but it was still kind of restricted who could access it at that point. Like, it was mostly just the elderly and immunocompromised people or whatever, I think. So by January, before Biden took office, the vaccine came out. I believe that's the timeline. The vaccine was widely available. So this is mid-November, pre-vaccine. Let's give this a listen and see what he had to say for himself.
They're even calling it the Biden vaccine. And isn't it interesting? They wait till a week after the election to announce they have a vaccine. Right.
That's Erskine. Apparently, they are upset because they're calling it the Biden vaccine. I don't know who the fuck was calling it that at the time, first of all. I had not heard that from anybody at the time. But isn't it interesting that they're like, seemingly so far, excited for the vaccine? Like they're pumped up. They're waiting. They want the vaccine to come out, and they're ready to thank Trump for it. How about that shit? Isn't that interesting? Let's keep listening.
The election to announce they have a vaccine. Right.
This has been set up from the very beginning from the Democrats. You know, whether it was trying to hurt Trump with the COVID, whether it was trying to hurt him with this or that. I mean, there's so many different things. You know, the vaccine, I tell people, if you were listening to Trump back in the COVID times.
Back in the COVID times. This is November. We hadn't even entered the COVID times quite yet at this point. Like, it was about to get real bad leading up to this.
A lot of his press conferences, Trump's 10 steps ahead of everybody. And
I'm sorry, what? Trump is 10 steps ahead of everybody? Can I get one single example of Trump being 10 steps ahead of anybody?
Trump's 10 steps ahead of everybody. And when you listen to him speak, every time that he would say the word COVID, switch that out with the word cabal. Mm-hmm. Every time that he says, what is the cure? The vaccine. What is the vaccine? We, the people in the military. When they go in and they start arresting these people. I think he was giving code out a lot of times to the people because there's always more than one depth of revelation to what he says.
Isn't that an interesting choice of words? Always more than one depth of revelation to what he says. How about that shit? That is some prophetic religious language he's using right there, right?
He's so much far ahead of the game. So the vaccine is the cure for what? The cabal. That's what's going to happen, I believe, when they release the vaccine.
So he's apparently under the impression that Donald Trump was giving code to everybody. When he was saying the word vaccine, he meant we, the people of the military. And when he was saying COVID, he actually meant the cabal, and they were going to start the storm. This is really concerning shit. These people are reading into something that's just not there, and I'm just waiting for the day when they think that they heard Trump say some secret code words that means, you know, put things into action. You guys are supposed to go down there and do something about this right now on this specific day and time. I'm more worried about people mistaking Donald Trump just using normal speech, normal everyday language, and thinking that there's a code in there that they're supposed to be living up to. Some kind of secret message they're supposed to be picking up. Because they've been doing this, picking up secret messages this entire time with Q. That's what the whole thing is all about. Picking up secret coded messages, reading into things and interpreting things that weren't really there in the first place. That's what the whole Q account was intended to do. Try to make people think like conspiracy theorists, and it succeeded gloriously. I really hope the day doesn't come when these people think that they've interpreted a message from Trump out of the things that he's said. Hell, I hope the day doesn't come when Trump really does tell them to go down to D.C. and do something they really shouldn't be doing. Anyway, there's another clip. Early September 2021 is when this one came out. Check this out.
We have got to stand up to this stuff. This is a genocide that is taking place right now, Paul.
Yeah.
And where is the church? Where's the prophets?
Yeah.
Where are they? Because the fact of the matter is, this is going to go down as one of the biggest genocides in world history right now. And only we can stop it. We the people can stop it. Again, the faster we rise up and do something, the faster this stuff will be over with. Look, I'm sick and tired of hearing Joe Biden impeach Joe Biden.
Yeah.
You and I both know this is going to be nothing, okay, in an impeachment, just like it was with Clinton. I'm tired of hearing about the 25th Amendment. Look, I want him, his administration, Milley, and these other generals that are responsible for Afghanistan, they need to be arrested and charged with treason.
Isn't it fascinating how this guy just did a complete 180 on the vaccine? This guy is sitting here calling it a global genocide, the vaccine.
This is a genocide that is taking place right now, Paul.
How about that shit? Like, just last year, he was getting upset that people were calling it the Biden vaccine. That is a whiplash-inducing level of 180. This guy is so completely disconnected from reality. I am seriously waiting for him to come up with some secret message from Trump that Trump never really sent to take action and do something that he really shouldn't be doing. Oh, and notice the advertisement in the bottom here. Says up to a 65% discount on merchandise at mypillow.com. Use promo code FUNTV. Fun TV. I guess that's one way to describe what we're watching here. Fun TV. Isn't that interesting? Mike Lindell, even at, when was this? This was back in, when did this come out? Yeah, this was back in early September 2021. Even in September, Mike Lindell is sponsoring all of these weird little shows. Getting sponsorship deals is actually really difficult. You have to be a certain level before people will even consider you. So I'm actually pretty concerned about the fact that this show that we're watching here with this guy and Mark Taylor is big enough that it's capable of getting sponsorship deals like that. So that brings us to our last clip with Mark Taylor. This one came out late November 2021. Let's check this one out, see what he said.
If he doesn't get ahead of the vaccines now, I think he's going to take a huge hit if he's not careful. He's already taken a hit from the Patriots, because if you just simply look at Mark Levin's interview he did the other night, if you go on Telegram and you read the comments, okay, just read the comments from the Patriots. They are fuming when he talks about the vaccine and how he's proud of it. They are fuming.
Wow, isn't that interesting? They have completely turned on Donald Trump, completely turned on him because he was advocating for people to get the vaccine. Isn't that fascinating? They seem to be genuinely upset with the guy over the fact that he was trying to push people to get vaccinated. You guys remember a while back, Trump was pushing and prodding Biden to ask him to promote the vaccine, and Jen Psaki, the press secretary, basically said, we're not going to get on our knees and beg Donald Trump to ask people to get vaccinated. If he wants to save people's lives, then he's more than free to, do that.
As COVID-19 cases rise, if this is becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated and you guys are having a hard time getting a certain part of the population to go get the shot, would President Biden ever call former President Trump and say, I need your help, let's cut a PSA and tell people to go do it?
We've seen almost every former president play a role in putting out a PSA, making sure people understood in the country that the vaccine is safe and effective. We don't believe that requires an embroidered invitation to be a part of. But certainly any role of anyone who has a platform where they can provide information to the public that the vaccine is safe, it is effective. We don't see this as a political issue. We'd certainly welcome that engagement.
I think that was a correct answer from Jen Psaki and from the Biden administration. Don't beg Trump to do anything. If he wants to get people to get vaccinated and stay healthy, then he will. If he doesn't, then he won't. Simple as that. Begging is not going to help. It's not going to do anything. In fact, it may actually do more damage than good. I think it was the right call from the Biden admin to do that, to just tell him to do it if that's what he wants to do. And sure enough, Trump did. To his credit, he came out and he said, you guys should be getting vaccinated. You know what happened?
I
recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines. But no, that's okay. That's all right. You got your freedoms. But I happen to take the vaccine.
Dude was booed at his own event for advocating for getting the vaccine. Just a few minutes ago, we were watching a clip where this guy and others were upset that people were calling it the Biden vaccine instead of the Trump vaccine.
They're even calling it the Biden vaccine. And isn't it interesting? They wait till a week after the election to announce they have a vaccine. Right.
Erskine is the guy's name who was saying that. And now we're at the point where Mark Taylor, Trump's de facto biggest supporter, is saying he may not vote for him, or others in the movement may not vote for him if he continues advocating for taking the vaccine. He can't excuse that. That is nuts. And not looking good for Trump, actually, in reality. You know, Trump only needs to lose one major voting bloc to not win an election. Seriously. Trump is one major voting bloc away from losing. Trump probably wouldn't win the 2024 election anyways, in my opinion. This is probably not shared by everybody, but incumbents are really, really hard to unseat. It is difficult to get an incumbent out. And that's why we have term limits. The only president that really ran past 2 terms got 4 terms, FDR. He just kept running and kept winning and winning. Finally died in office, I think 3 weeks after winning his 4th term. And that's when they put term limits in. It's so difficult to unseat somebody that's already in the job. Because they're like, well, you know, that guy could be bad, his opponent, but we know how bad this guy is, and we're comfortable with this level of bad, usually. That's why it blew me away when Donald Trump lost. It blew me away. It is so difficult to unseat an incumbent. And Joe Biden will have that power behind him, the incumbency power. So I honestly think it's extremely unlikely that Donald Trump would win in 2024 if he ran. He is extremely likely to run. And if he loses one voting bloc, he's very likely going to lose anyways. This voting bloc that this guy here represents, the QAnon voting bloc, this could be the one that he needs to lose.
And they are literally threatening not to support him in his next election or from here on out until he turns the other way.
That's what I'm getting. It's very worrisome. It's very worrisome. I mean, that's what I'm getting uniformly across the board. It's what you're getting. It's what I'm getting.
You know how hard it is to turn a Republican voter against a Republican politician? It's historically so fucking difficult. You know what it took for Andrew Cuomo to basically lose the good graces of the electorate? Impropriety, basically, to harass people and so on and so forth. I don't actually know exactly what he did, but that's all it took. Whatever it was he did, that's what it took to get him out of office. He will most likely never win another election again if he even runs. I doubt he will, because a lot of the time Democrats don't really put up with people who take advantage of people or whatever, like impropriety. They don't put up with that kind of thing. For the most part, there are consequences, electoral consequences for Democrats for that kind of behavior. Not the case necessarily with Republicans. Look at Matt Gaetz. Dude basically didn't even take a hit. I mean, look at any number of Republican politicians who have been accused of sexual impropriety, even convicted of it in some cases. And they're still in office. Still. It is so fucking difficult to get a Republican voter to turn against a Republican politician. This right here blows me away. That they're even talking about it.
Right. These are heartfelt, real people, not trolls.
Yeah.
These are real people. How do we rescue the president? He needs a rescue. How do we rescue him?
That was what I was saying. I think the cure to all of this would be to come out swinging for the American people, say stop the vaccines immediately, all 4 companies, because look, we all know Big Pharma's behind this, period. We all know that.
Who's we? What does that even mean, Big Pharma's behind this? I don't understand. What does he mean by that exactly? Can he clarify? You mean they invented it? Okay, sure. Or maybe not even invented it. You mean they're manufacturing it? Yeah. I'm behind you all the way. Big Pharma is behind this manufacturing effort. What is Big Pharma doing that you don't like? Oh my God. You know, for a split second there, I forgot the dude was QAnon and was just going off on like the possibilities of what he believed without realizing that, yes, he believes all of it. All of the crazy shit that they say about vaccines. In fact, he's probably the source of some of it.
To come out and say who led him astray, and then he needs to hold them accountable. Perp walk them on national television, arrest them, charge them with treason, genocide, whatever it is.
Charge them with genocide? I didn't know that was a charge in the U.S.
And then they need to be held accountable. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? These people need to repent, but that's not going to stop justice from being served.
They're so unhinged from reality, dude. So unhinged. Sometimes I just want to, like, go into these message boards where you find people like this, you know, like patriots.win, for example. Go into this forum here and then just make a revelation about something and see the wheels spin. See their gears turning in their head and trying to figure out what to make of what you just said and how it fits into like their conspiracy theory that they already have going and all this other stuff. It's so fascinating to look at this shit and see how they rationalize this thing with that thing. It is fucking bizarre. I have never seen anything like it. This cult, the QAnon cult, is one of a kind. I don't think I've ever studied a cult quite like this one. Heaven's Gate rivals it in levels of just sheer strangeness in what they believe. I mean, Heaven's Gate was up there. But QAnon has it all. The strange shit, the lack of evidence, the violence, the anger, and the power, sadly. They have more political power than they should. Sometimes it's hard to watch these people say the things they say because it's like, what the fuck has the country come to? But I've said this before, I'll say it again. The moral arc bends toward justice. You know, we'll take 5 steps backwards, but we will take 10 steps forward again. Don't let this stuff get you down. For now, we have to continue to call this out and laugh at it to some degree, show how ridiculous this kind of thing is, because if we don't, somebody will come along and see this shit and take it seriously.